welcome to Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate for our 12th episode, sponsored by Elm Grove Farm tonight. And we've got a special guest with us tonight, and it's a young driver outside of the maritime circuit. So we're switching things up a bit. So we hope you enjoy this episode. And again, brought to you by the good folks at Elm Grove Farm. And the young driver that we have tonight, just 21 years old, and he is the second leading driver currently in North America right now. And I'll go through his lifetime stats so far. He's got 970 lifetime wins and counting, along with $9.3 million in earnings. In 2024 so far, off to an amazing quick start, 170 plus wins, $1.6 million. And got to talk about last year too. What a breakout year for this young fella. In 2023, 453 wins and $4.4 million. And I can tell you, he's fresh off another big day down at Saratoga this afternoon with a 5-bagger, 5 wins for this young lad. And I'll send it over to my co-host, Caitlin Wesley, to introduce our special guest for tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I'm so excited to get to know Brett. You're young and you're up and coming, and you definitely have made a mark on the industry at such a young age. So I cannot wait to dive in and get to know you more, learn more, about who you are as a driver, but who you are as, a person in general. So welcome aboard, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's nice to have you, Brett. And what we'd like to do is just kind of go through a question format with you. And you've had the opportunity to kind of look at the questions that we're going to ask. So one that I'll start out with that actually isn't on there, but it's just an introduction to yourself. And just take us back a little bit, Brett, to how you first got involved in racing and when you first started driving. I understand you started as early as age 16.
Yeah, well, both my mom and dad have kind of been in the business and run the business together between them, but I really never was interested in it. Didn't pique my interest up until really late. I was about like 15 when I really started going around the barn a lot more, and then I got my qualifying and fair license when I turned 16 and started racing in some of the non-bed and amateur races at Yonkers, and also some of the fairs in Maine I went to.
Yeah, I was talking to a fella I know quite well, Ricky Allaby. I don't know if you know Rick or not. He goes down to Maine and races in the summer, and he knows your dad very, very well. And he thought you had got your early start on the what's kind of known as a matinee circuit or a fair circuit back when you were 16. He thought it was maybe at Windsor. Is that
Yeah, it was.
accurate?
Yep, that's accurate.
Yeah, right on. Good for you. So I wanted to ask you, you've won a number of big races so far in your career, Brett, at such a young age. And got to ask you, though, what race would you be most thrilled to win? You've watched a lot of races over the years. You've been involved in some big ones, I'm sure, already. But what is that one race that you look to and say, I want to win that someday?
I'd have to probably say the Little Brown Jug. It's just one of those races that the amount of fans that are there and all the camaraderie there, it's just one of those races that if I could ever get the chance to even race in, I've never even went. I just want to go to watch.
Oh, you've never been there even to watch?
It's on my bucket list just to go to watch, but it just seems like it's a really good time with a lot of good people, and that's probably the race I'd choose.
Yeah, and I think the way you're going, you might stand a chance, and definitely on a half-mile track too. I think with the half-mile track that you've shown you're one of the best young drivers in the country on a half-mile track. So I'm going to send it over to Caitlin for our second question tonight, Brett.
Yeah, you've started 2024 season where you left off in 2023. You had over 450 wins, and you banked over 4.4 million in purse. Already this year, you're cruising for 200 wins, pretty much almost there. Have you kind of set any personal goals for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I'm a very goal-oriented person. I think it's something that keeps you striving for more. Actually, you probably can't see it, but right behind me there's a whiteboard.
Yeah.
And the 2024's goals are 500 wins and 5 million in purses
Oh,
to
that's awesome.
try to do a little better than last year, as well as one of the goals I wrote down was try to be a leading driver at one of the tracks I race at.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think you've definitely got a good shot at Saratoga. You seem to really settle in there, Brett. Would you call that your home track?
Yeah, as of right now, that's home base for sure. I live
Yeah.
right by there, and so Saratoga is a good place to live.
And you definitely have a busy schedule. Kind of tell us about a week in the life of Brett Beckwith. I know you certainly put a lot of miles on between tracks. So kind of tell listeners how you go about your week from Monday to Sunday.
A majority of it obviously spent racing whenever I can. I'm just one of those people. I want to race 7 days a week if I can. Like I like
Yeah.
to race. I enjoy racing. And I think, when you're younger, you should really work as hard as you can. But I go to the barn most mornings, I should say. Like some of the days I'm at Freehold, I can't make it, but I try to help in when I can there. And I got one of my own horses I take care of that I like going to jog and train and take care of. But other than that, besides racing and uh, going to the barn in the mornings, I'm kind of like a gym rat, I guess you could say. I like to go to
Oh,
the
good.
gym. I think it's good mentally and obviously
It is.
physically. It's good mentally for you. So that's really it. Other than those three things, I live a very quiet life. Probably once or twice a week. Me and some good friends go to like a nice dinner, and that's about it.
Oh, awesome. And Kate, I think you got the next question up for Brett.
Yeah. You've made an impact at such an early age. Being 21, you've been super impressive, especially at the Meadowlands. Has there been a couple drivers that you have kind of really liked competing against?
Um, I guess anyone at Meadowlands is really the best to compete against. I think the more you compete against the best, the better you become, and you can really learn a lot. You don't watching it's so different than really racing against some of those guys. They're just one step ahead of everyone. So
Yeah, it must be.
I don't know if I could pick one name in particular, but there's
Yeah.
all of those guys that race in week and week out at Meadowlands is very, very tough.
Yeah, it must be something. Must be something to look over and see. Guys like Dexter Dunn and the guys that do such a fantastic job and win a lot of the big races when the money's up. So it must be certainly a thrill for you to drive at the Big M. And wanted to ask you as well. Most of your driving so far, Brett, has been in Maine, New York, New Jersey. What about where we are, north of the border in Canada? Are you hoping to get up sometime? And I know I'm not sure if you were ever here as a kid with your dad. I know he goes to the Gold Cup and Saucer sometimes. So have you ever been to the Maritimes?
I have not. It's definitely on my bucket list. Obviously PEI and Canada as a whole. I mean,
Yeah.
between the two tracks, you guys really do a great job. Especially the Woodbine circuit. They really host really good racing week in and week out, especially the schedule they have. But it hasn't come across my doorstep yet, but it's on the bucket list, no doubt.
Yeah, I have a feeling you'll probably get a call to drive at some point, definitely in Canada, very, very soon. So I'll send it
Hopefully.
over. Yeah, I'll send it over to Caitlin now for our next question.
Yeah. So speaking of PEI, you're pretty much aware that, that's a place that we always have our biggest race in the Maritimes, the Gold Cup and Saucer. Cover Bridge. He was one of the ones that won last year for Gold Cup and Saucer with Jordan. Do you think if you were given the opportunity, would you drive at the Gold Cup and Saucer? And what would it kind of, mean to you to actually go and drive into this race?
Oh, without a doubt, I would take up the opportunity in a heartbeat, whether it was the 8 hole at 100 to 1. I've wanted to go to the Gold Cup for a while. I want to make the time to do it one of these years just to even go up, but to race it would definitely be a thrill. And uh, it's one of those races too. I think it's really memorable to win just because of the camaraderie that's there and the people and the fans. It's really not much like it.
Yeah, like on a half-mile trip, besides a little brown jug, Brett, really, like you've got to get to a Gold Cup and Saucer. It's just incredible. And I'm sure your dad can tell you that anyway. He's
Yeah,
been
he loves it
to
up there.
yeah, he's
And
been
on
to a
top
few.
of it, you guys have single-handedly the greatest announcer ever.
Oh, Vance Cameron.
The
Oh,
best.
oh, well, you'll certainly make a lot more fans saying that. But no, Vance is incredible. He puts so much life into track announcing here in the Maritimes, and we're lucky to have him. I like to see him. I know Ken Workington from the Meadowlands. He comes up here during Gold Cup week and kind of pitch hits for Vance when he needs a break. So maybe Vance can go down and announce a race down in the U.S. sometime. That'd be nice
Yeah,
to see.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about the influence, Brett, that your mom and dad have had as far as you in racing and you as a person in general.
Obviously my mom and dad have influenced my careers as a whole, really. I mean,
Yeah.
they've gave me, especially my dad, has gave me a lot of wisdom when it comes to driving and on top of that, and then I got my mom who's always supporting me, whether I have a good day or bad day. She's gonna tell me what I want to hear. And then my dad's a little more on the realistic side of things sometimes, but like the opportunities I've gotten at my age are quite quite unheard of, to be honest. A lot of
Yeah.
people get that same chance. So I've just tried to take every opportunity I can and go as far as I can with it.
Yeah, and you've done such a tremendous job, and the opportunities come, Brad, when you deliver, as you know, and you've done a fantastic job so far at such a young age. So I'll send it over to Caitlin once again for our next question with Brett Beckwith.
You've stated in previous interviews, which I'm sure you are over the moon, thrilled about of having so many interviews come your way at such an age. But you kind of touched base on about work ethic. Do you think that that trait sets you apart from other drivers today?
Yeah, I'd like to say so. I mean, most people who know me, I'll go wherever for a drive if I can make it. And I just think if you're going to be in this business, you should have a really strong work ethic. And that's one of the biggest things you can be as good of a driver as you want to be, but if the work ethic's not there, your career isn't going to go as far as it could have.
Right. Agreed.
Exactly, and you make your home at Saratoga Racetrack. Once the stake season ramps up, what might your schedule look like? How does it change, Brad, as the summer comes and the stakes come along?
Well, about today's April 7th, so about a week or so from now, Plainridge opens up in Massachusetts. So
Yeah.
then and Saratoga then goes to 3 days a week instead of 4. So
Okay.
then I'll race Saratoga on Saturday and Sunday. And then this year I'm going to go to Plainridge on Monday instead of Saratoga just because that's one of their really good cards there. They have a lot of higher class horses. So it's Saratoga Saturday, Sunday, Plainridge Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then Freehold and Meadowlands I'll still stick with Friday. So I got Wednesday off, so works out good.
Yeah, you've got a busy spring and summer ahead for sure, Brett. And I hope a lot of trainers are listening so they can plan accordingly to know that you're going to be coming down in the area. So I'll send it over once again to Kate. Go ahead.
Even though you've had 400 over 400 wins last year. Do you think 2024 season was your best season yet, or do you think, this year coming, you're aiming for that, bigger win amount, that it will be this year?
Obviously I'm hoping for, I try to take it day by day and not look too far ahead into the future, but yeah, it's been a really good start to 2024. And actually last year, 2023, for the wins and purse money I ended up with, I was really happy with at the end of the day, because the start and the first 2 or 3 months of 2023 were actually a little rough to start out with, and things just weren't going the way I was hoping for. So 2024 has been the opposite of that. So it's been a really good start.
No,
Awesome.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And like I say, 5 wins again today at Saratoga. So I was looking back at your stats, Brett, at an early age, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Dark Pool might have been your first ever win.
Yeah, he was. He was my first ever win at Yonkers, and
Yeah. Tell us about that.
a really good family friend of ours, Paul Fusco. And the
Yeah.
Fusco family has just been a huge help as well. Paul gave me the chance to drive him, and I mean, I probably couldn't have drove him any worse, and he still won. And then
Yeah.
after the race, I couldn't pull him up, couldn't stop him, and it was a very interesting first win experience, but that's one I won't forget.
Yeah. And I suppose as a young driver too, Brett, even though you're doing so well statistically, you're learning everything as you go, kind of thing. Like, you've gained so much experience so young, but every day you're learning new things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in this business, you never stop learning. I think it's one of the
Yeah.
few businesses that you really can't ever truly master. I mean, if you were to talk to Dave Miller, who's been everywhere in this business and done everything, he would probably still say the same answer. He's still learning day to day, and
Yeah.
there's a lot to learn in this business.
Absolutely. And I'll send it back to Kate. She wanted to find out who some of your favorite horses have been to drive.
Yeah. Who have been your favorite horses to drive? You've mentioned, in other interviews, you love sitting behind a good trotter. It's definitely a thrill, that's for sure. Who would be the nicest trotter to date that you've drove?
The nicest trotter to date I've drove is, it's a very tough question, because there's one I've got more recently for Jackie Green Stable that I really think highly of, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen his full potential yet. But we had a horse, 2 horses last year that really were stars in our barn on the trot side. Angel Nation is one of them. He's a pretty nice horse. He had a mark of like 52 and change at Miami Valley last year before he came back this way. And Chaphart as well. He won today actually. He's
Okay.
one of my favorites, because he's an honest little guy. He keeps trying.
What about on the pace? What about on the pacer side? Any horses stand out that you have liked to drive over the past couple years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've got the chance to drive a lot of nice horses, but
Yeah.
just as a favorite, we have a mare, Probert is her name,
Okay.
and she's just one of those, like, every time you go to race her, she's never put in a bad effort. She just tries,
Yeah.
and she tries and tries and tries.
Yeah. Well, you can't ask for more than that, for sure.
No.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you as well. Of course, your mom and dad have been a big influence on your career and on a personal level. But outside of your family, Brett, who would you say has had a big influence on you early on in your career so far?
Um, on the training side of it, I'd have to say, like, there's definitely a few names. When the Garrity was here, Ron Burke and the Burke crew
Yeah.
gave me a tremendous opportunity in that, and that was a race on my home track, so that meant a lot to me. And they've gave me good opportunities, as well as over the winter this year. Per Enblom had me on a lot of horses at Meadowlands, and so that was a huge help too. And there's been a really lot of people that have helped me out, and especially this year, uh, Jackie Green at Saratoga has used me as like her main driver this year and uses me at every track she races at. So between here, Yonkers, and Medellin. So that's been a huge help as well. I'm sure I'm missing someone really important somewhere that's get mad at me when watching this, but
Yeah.
it's just been a lot of countless opportunities from countless people.
No, that's awesome. So I think Kate wanted to find out the quickest horse that you've sat behind in your career so far.
Yeah, like you said, you've sat behind quite a few good horses in your time so far. But what horse has been the fastest to date that you've drove?
I was really thinking about this, I still could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we had a pacer. You Can't Touch This is his name.
Okay.
He raced that Plainridge and he win in 49-1. I want to say that day, and I really liked him a lot too when we had him. So I think that's the fastest.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
Yeah, 41. And I saw that in an interview that you did recently, Brett, that one of the favorite horses that you've had to at least watch on the racetrack is the Great Bulldog Hanover. What other horse, perhaps a trotter, past or present, have you been one to follow or have enjoyed watching?
I mean, that's tough, but at least watching it, one of my favorite horses I got to watch for a short period of time was Aki's Svanstead Trotted Arlerage 1.
Yeah.
The way that horse moved was unlike anything I've ever seen. He was really just a freak of an athlete, especially on the trot side, to be able to move that fast. And you know how trotters are, they can make a mistake at any point in time, and that horse just really never did.
Yeah, no, there's been some nice trotters. And of course, I don't know if you remember this horse. I know your dad would, but the Great Moneymaker,
Yeah.
who driven by PEI, native Wally Hennessy, what a career she had. And I don't know if you ever go back and watch any of her races, but man, she was some trotter.
Yeah, I've watched her races. I never got to watch her in person, unfortunately, but I've watched some
Yeah.
of her replays before and kind of a freak.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, being the young driver that you are and gaining experience quite quickly, are there any younger drivers, Brett, that you're kind of looking side to side and kind of, you know, one to maybe watch as a future star or a rising star?
There's a countless amount of younger guys right now. I'd be willing to say that the younger drivers now that we have today, there's a lot more of than there was maybe 20 years ago. I mean, I can name 10 people off my head that if they had the same opportunities that I've had at Saratoga and other places, that they would do just as good, if not better, without a doubt. But I mean, I guess if I had to pick some favorites, uh, Braxton Boyd's a good friend of mine. Really like Braxton.
Okay.
I like the way
Yeah.
he drives. And a couple other like Matt Thurn at Saratoga, we're good friends. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of good drivers.
So just off topic, real quick, I got to ask you because this happened recently as well. Mark Campbell from Prince Edward Island got a chance to go down and drive down your way. Probably your first time that you met Mark, maybe. And what are your thoughts on? He had quite a night actually for his first time driving down there.
Yeah, absolutely. I never got to meet Mark prior to that, but I
Yeah,
mean, just a really down to earth, good guy and phenomenal driver. If he ever
yeah,
wanted to fully leave PEI and go somewhere else, he definitely could without a doubt.
awesome. And Kate, I think you've got a question on some of the 2-year-olds from last year that might be coming out for Brett this year.
Yeah, actually, I had a different question, but
Yeah, I know you did. We kind of skipped around a little bit.
I'm actually going to ask a question because I'm really interested in knowing,
Okay.
how had you decide? Because, like you've said, you have a lot of different people, putting you down as their main driver. If you're listed on 2 or 3 horses, how do you decide on which horse you actually want to take. Is it by the odds of the horse, you're understanding the horse, or just because you're their main go-to person? Like, how do you get to decide on that?
I'd say when I can, a majority of it is loyalty towards
Yeah.
people I drive for. Like, obviously, I'm always going to try to be loyal to my dad, and this year I try to be loyal to Jackie because she's used me on a lot. But if it's somewhere else other than Saratoga per se or Plainridge, I try to just take the best horse just because I feel like the more you win, the more opportunities you're going to get. So being loyal at other tracks can only get you so far.
Right.
Yeah. So for those people that don't know, Brett, when the draw comes out and you're down on multiple horses, what happens there? Does the race secretary have your cell phone and call you and ask you which horse you wanted to take, or how's that work?
Usually once the entries come out the next
Yeah.
morning, you'll call the judges, and well, that night you'll look at the proof obviously and see which ones you want, see which
Yeah.
ones you think will fit best, or see which ones you should take, and then you'll call the judges early in the morning, give them a ring, and you make your picks from there.
Awesome. So back to stake events. Is there any 2-year-olds that you drove last year, Brett, that you got along with pretty good that are coming 3 this year that maybe listeners should keep an eye out for in the 2024 racing season?
You know, unfortunately, I didn't get a huge opportunity to drive that many younger horses, especially as like my dad's operation. We don't really mess around with a ton of younger horses, but
Yeah.
if any opportunity comes my way this year, I'd be more than happy to take it. But there's no 2-year-old in particular that I got to sit behind last year that I'd be expecting this year.
Right on. Do you think you might get some opportunities up here in Canada with some young horses this year if things keep going well for you?
Yeah, if the opportunity ever presents itself, I'm always going to take it, especially a chance to drive younger horses.
Awesome. And I think we're back on track here, Kate. So you have a question on the distance races.
Yeah. Out of all the different size tracks that you've been on, so your half mile, your 5/8, like, which track do you like driving the best at?
I actually prefer the mile track. I think the racing itself is more enjoyable for the fans. I think as a driver, you can really put strategy into play a lot more than you can vice versa. A half mile, you have to draw good, and a lot of times you have to have a horse that can leave the gate quick. And I just really like the mile racing, especially in Meadowlands. It's just a great track.
Yeah, the Meadowlands are always on the move, Brett, and I like the style of racing there that's been adopted down there. You know, there's a lot of times in a race, there's 4 or 5 leaders, different horses at some point early on in the race. And like you said, strategy really plays a big part, especially when you're at the Meadowlands.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Kate. And I think you've got, well, I'll mention it actually. When you're on the track and you're waiting to go to the gate, do you feel, Brett, that the time in between races at some tracks is a little bit too long?
Yes, I think you can only drag out the races so much. You're gonna get a majority of your handle during from the time the clock ticks till you step foot on the track. I mean, sometimes you're out there for a real long time, and I think sometimes the amount of time they put before the next race can be unnecessary. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's not my say and not my job, I guess. But
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone has
Yeah.
a different opinion on that. But that's just mine.
Yeah, and I think especially where sports betting has been, you know, almost like an instant gratification. You can bet so quickly on live games as they're happening. So I know harness racing has to go up against that type of wagering, and I'm a big supporter of running races off in a timely fashion and get the bettors used to betting early and getting at the windows early.
Yeah, absolutely. Your betters are gonna bet when they need to. Like
Yeah,
if you said, all right, we're gonna go with 3 minutes to the next race, and then they're gonna be out there for 3 minutes, they're gonna make their wager within that time.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all about everything we got for you as far as questions go, Brett.
I will say I have to give a huge shout out to two
Yeah,
PEI breds, Mark McDonald and Wally Hennessy. Both have had tremendous amounts of just they've given me so much help throughout my journey since I've turned 18 to where it is now, between asking both of them for driving advice. And both have different opposing styles per se, but they've both given me a lot of advice, and just wanted to make sure they knew that in case they're watching.
Awesome.
no, that's awesome. And if Wally's watching, got to tell you a quick story. Back when I was a kid and still going out for Halloween, I actually wore a pair of Wally Hennessy silks out to do some trick or treating, and I was a big fan of Wally's growing up. So he's been a big supporter of maritime racing and still is. So Wally, if you're watching this, hope things are going well. So anything
Absolutely.
else?
Between the both of them, they've been everywhere in this business, win every big race, and they've both have had tremendous careers so far.
Yeah,
I
and
have
how about Marcus? Mark's brother James is having quite a career as well.
I'm actually a huge James McDonald fan. I think, in my opinion, he's a top 5 driver in the whole world at the
Yeah,
moment. And I'm a big James McDonald fan.
awesome. You had another question, Kate.
Yeah, because I know you mentioned that there's quite a few young folks that are driving in your area. Now, here in the Maritime, it seems harder for us to get, young folks as in trainers or to get them in the driving aspect of things. Was there something that really helped you kind of want to become that driver? Because I know in PEI we have our matinee circuits, like we have those amateur races and stuff where you don't have to be a driver. All you have to have is your groom's license. I know here in Nova Scotia we have them once in a while on our big tracks, but if us here in Nova Scotia want to really get our population back up because we have older drivers and we do need the young drivers to come, what what is something that we could maybe get some enhancement on getting these guys to get in the bike?
My story is a little different than most, obviously. I mainly started driving to have something in common with my dad. But
Yeah,
for other people like who aren't in the business and are just seeing it for the first time, I think it's just all about being hands-on. I mean, obviously, you guys do a great job with it, and shout out to Jordan Stratton during that race, like bringing the horse around and letting the fans pet it and stuff. Like, it just brings a whole new engagement. And
yeah.
I think that's something harness racing as a whole needs. Like, I think there should be certain giveaways at the track where some fan wins a trip to the paddock, and they should be able to walk to the paddock and look at the horses and look at more of the inside part of the business. And I think if the more people are hands-on with it and really are working around the horses, because horses are phenomenal creatures. I mean, they're some of the best animals you could find. And I think the more people were to realize that and be around them, they would think differently.
So, which tracks that you race on, Brett, would have the most live fans actually in attendance on a fairly regular basis?
I mean, I'd probably say Meadowlands usually does the best, but oddly enough, Freehold during the summertime, they do get a good crowd of railbirds sitting there yelling
Yeah.
at. So it's good.
Well, that's good when you can banter back and forth with the fans, and like you say, that Gold Cup and Saucer last season when Jordan Stratton got so involved at the end of the race, that was one of the most iconic moments I think in Gold Cup and Saucer history here in the Maritimes. And like you say, it'd be so great to see more of that on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
So again, Brett, listen, thank you very much. I know how busy you are and the schedule that you have right now, and can't say enough good things about you. I'm a big fan of yours and get to watch you most days. So continue what you're doing a fantastic job, and I hope you can reach your goals this year that you've set for yourself.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It means a ton.
Awesome. Anything else from you, Kate?
Hopefully we get to see you for Gold Cup and Saucer, but
Well, hopefully there's some trainers out there that are listening to this, and I'd love to see Brett get up here for Gold Cup and Saucer 2024, and I think it'd be. Yeah.
And Vance would give you the biggest boom, so I think that would be
just
be a
like
thrill.
that.
Exactly.
He's the best.
Yeah,
he is.
But I'm so excited. Scott has kept me up to date with everything on your end, and it was so nice just to actually put pictures to a face. And like I said to most of our interview people that we do that are drivers, I love the fact that we can ask you guys any question, and it's, you bring out the human side of harness racing, not just that driver that everyone sees on TV or anything. Like, you guys have these stories that no one knows about. So just to get that, insight, I think a lot of people get to see the true people that you guys are. So thanks for jumping on. Like, it's been a thrill.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Yes, thanks very much, Brett, and continued success going to you. So that's a wrap for episode number 12 of Behind the Gate with Scott and Kate, again sponsored by Elm Grove Farm. And a big thank you once again to our guest, Brett Beckwith. And our next guest here on the podcast will be Prince Edward Island's David Dowling. We'll have him up shortly on our next episode. And wanted to mention as well, congrats to the Truro Award winners from last night's banquet. And a big congratulations going out to their Horse of the Year for 2023. And that was Privilege, a fractional ownership horse. So there you go. You can get in on fractional ownership here in the Maritimes, and you might get a Horse of the Year, just like the group did last night. So again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our sponsors, Elm Grove Farms, and for myself, Scott Waddell, and co-host Caitlin Wesley, and our guest, Brett Beckwith. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on the podcast.